So are both of you okay with pink films?
Please be quiet.
I read off paper. Or actually, no, I don't read my NC off paper. So yeah, totally cool.
So Westwood's affirming.
Strike Jesuit is the game.
Wait, you should.
I should throw this away.
Is it supposed to be asked like just like a few questions really quick?
No.
As long as it's less than 30 seconds.
Is anyone not okay with speed/non-policy style arguments?
As long as you're clear. I'll yell clear twice and then I'll stop.
I'll tell you if I can't, if you're unclear, you could also read my nonverbals about your arguments. I'm very open about what's mine and not mine.
I'll just read off your shit.
You're welcome to read from that.
Yeah, I guess.
Is everyone ready?
Yes, sir.
Do you hear my stand? I affirm observation 1. Negation is fine as something considered the opposite of something else by Merriam-Webster. The affirmative defend the RTBF ought to be civil rights, the negative defend the RTBF ought not to be civil rights, don't not be skeptical counter advocating negative case positions. Also prefer this interpretation of the grounds for reciprocity. Key to fairness across the ballot. Fairness is important because without it, no one will participate. I value morality. As per the value of term ought, the resolution is fine is used to express duty and moral negation by Merriam-Webster. The first. Overarching static truth cannot exist. Any claims to objective morality based on the subjective mind life, subjective understanding, shape and influence them, attempts to use practical reason to escape the problem, fails understanding reason is shaped by others. This means by the only method which you validate reason is through the consensus of others, forcing reality that is intersubjectively constructed. And consensus is epistemic. It is how we construct truth. Moreover, as participants in argumentation, we implicitly concede as authority. We do not need justification for arguments absent the need for external validation through consensus. Holstone 5. The real cannot be conceived independent of a thought, but rather consensus would necessarily constitute the quality of the real can be meaningfully thought of that which holds true in the long run. To believe peace, to say peace is true, is a necessarily true analytic statement. Consensus has the status of an undeniable transcendental pragmatic presupposition. It is undeniable because we have participants in discourse already presuppose that there are presuppositions of serious argumentation that we cannot deny without being involved in a performative contradiction. We claim that something is the case, we implicitly concede that it can be justified as true. And normative truths are intersubjectively constructed. We develop our own identities and conceptions of morality as a result of our interactions with others. Societal consensus controls the content of these discussions and is thereby epistemic. Page 98. The primacy of language interaction with generation of meaning. Human life is fundamentally dialogical. We become full human agents capable of understanding ourselves and hence finding identity through acquisition of rich human language through expression. Interaction is the crucible of meaning. A child learns about morality through discourse, both explicit and implicit. The meaning of something, including the meaning of our own identity and our morality, is dependent on what is comprehensible and recognized within a social community. Beings create their identity through shared discourse and language. Narrative stories and traditions feed directly into our identity, signaling value, attributes, and behaviors, giving an explanation for our past and present. And morality based in consensus through deliberation checks back bigotry as individuals are held accountable by others. Over time, democratic leaders always progress towards the best forms of morality by fostering discussion or reflection. Appeals to intuition are problematic because they assume individual omniscience is simply reinforced status quo oppression absent recognition of their existence. This is empirically proven. Rights and violations of the United States have progressed for the amount of time that we've been a democracy. Right now, it is not as bad as it is not nearly where it should be, but it's not as bad as it used to be back when slavery was okay. We've progressed as a result of democratic deliberation. Also, the standard is consistency with popular consensus. Onto the offense. A majority of the population favors RTBF, 50% for, 23% against, and 27% undecided. Additionally, 76% agree that irrelevant search results ought to be removed, all being 14. 50% of people agree the right of individuals to control their personal data is paramount, only 23% are against RTBF. Also, prefer this evidence. 1. Global coverage. The study includes poll data from over 5 international regions. 2. Sample size almost 2,000 individual content in this study. 3. Distributed accuracy. Poll includes equal distribution across political affiliation, gender, age, race, socioeconomic status. 4. Statistical analysis. Whether unweighted and weighted sample shows that the data gives a conclusion that is significant. And even in countries in which freedom of expression is indispensable and conceptions of privacy differ, RTBF still has little opposition. The majority supports it. Humphreys 14. We asked respondents of search engines to stop returning results about individuals so they complain. The result is overwhelmingly clear. A solid majority, 61% would favor and right to be forgotten law for citizens. Also, we surveyed, the preferred 7 because 1, the study asked non-polarizing question that allows for responses beyond yes or no. This proved the accuracy of the study by taking into account degrees of agreement/disagreement. The study used data from ordinary citizens as well as a panel of experts. This is important because it shows consistent agreement with those, even those heavily informed by RTBF, means that public opinions are unlikely to change even with increased knowledge on the subject. And RTBF is popular among those who already have it. Messenger 12. 75% of EU citizens support the right to be forgotten, 90% favor a unified law across Europe. For the evidence because it comes from people who currently have RTBF. This is important for 2 reasons. A, the subject polls are more likely to be well informed on the subject. It means that, and B, it means that RTBF popularity is maintained post-implementation, which means that we presuppose solvency of the app. Also, online polls overwhelmingly favor RTBF, 93% want it, Alana 14. Should Google give people the right to be forgotten? 93% of 200 respondents replied yes, 4% replied no, and 3% were undecided. But further, the evidence is poll internet users most likely to be affected by the policy. And support for RTBF is increasingly the status quo in sport, especially high in the older generations. By Inverter 13. People increasingly approve of the right to be forgotten. A survey by University of Berkeley showed that people, including 90% of the 60-plus generation, want RTBF. There's hardly been a legislative issue that has received such a high acceptance. And Eastern populations want RTBF. Counter Youth for 14. The right to be forgotten has been widely held by Indian intellectuals and colonists as a godsend, and they're filing similar applications in Indian courses. India has chosen to move right. We can move right alongside it. This evidence is important because it includes data from Eastern populations which are generally excluded from RTBF polls. And consistency with popular consensus is critical in preventing extinction. Diamond 95. As nuclear, chemical, biological weapons continue to proliferate, life on Earth appears increasingly endangered. Most of these threats are associated with the absence of democracy, with provisions for popular sovereignty. The democratic governments do not ethically cleanse, they do not sponsor terrorism, they do not build weapons of mass destruction. They are responsible because they must answer to their own citizens. Means that being consistent with popular will over time is necessary to solve back for the inconsistency of the popular will that exists in the status quo, i.e., governments are becoming totalitarian. They're not being consistent with the will of their citizens, which is the reason why things like weapons of mass destruction are being created in the first place. Also, additional ex-offenders contention. RTBF helps ex-offenders escape cycles of poverty by increasing their ability to obtain employment. Vizoko 14. The right to be forgotten would effectively expunge federal non-violent criminal records, untrapping ex-offenders from the cycle of poverty and incarceration, enhancing their ability to get a job, thereby reducing recidivism. This is 3 implications. A. Popular consensus is more likely to vote out because those excluded from poll samples are imprisoned people who likely support RTBF. And B. I'm not reading this card. B. Poverty is the worst form of structural violence, creates conditions worse than nuclear war. Poverty is effectively genocide against the poor, is weighted at people who are weak and inferior. Bujamal. 09. On average, many die because of poverty were killed in a nuclear war. 2 to 3 times many people die from poverty, killed in a Nazi genocide, and that violence was internalized in society based on all those who nothing are taught to loathe themselves. And presume maps of overcome the 7 times you had to pay better for programs that even and the negative reactive, so you can choose strategy off the dark for definitions because these permits to establish framework, whereas the negative can adapt the definition advanced by the acts choose strategies with the negative, they can run definition data will preclude the AC. Also, the negative must defend the status quo, to nullify 6 minutes of AC offense. The 1AC pertains directly to the status quo, is impossible to preempt the structure of the 1AC to retain alternate adequacies unless they are disclosed on the NDC wiki. Disclosed counterplans are okay, and only add RBS and T in theory. A time strategy. NCT was personal flow and answers later baby tracks response to the money asking after the next day states finish respond formats my arguments. Also, discourages bad who use betas well frivolously, they know they can lose in it. Also, loss of friendly interpretation cross text avoids unnecessary theory words coming out last for greater substantive debate showing from education needs to be agreement auto, on theory. If the intro isn't checked in cross text to discourage non-checking.
Alright, everyone ready? I'm checking an interp right now.
Yeah.
Descriptive standards are bad. I don't want you to run descriptive standards. So I'm asking for you to remove the entire. Okay, cool. Conflict. So that theory spike is gone, right?
Yeah, you can read it.
Alright, what was the second argument in the interview?
Second argument, I think it was for route definitions. Yeah.
Alright. That would only apply to theory, right? Sorry,
Definitions
it's
in
T.
general. Definitions in general.
Alright, whatever. Neg must defend the SQO. Does this mean I can't run theory or critiques?
No. Well, alternatives is not the story. But you can read.
I can't read K alternatives. I can just indict something bad and then say, let's just keep doing this bad
You
thing.
can read reject all. That's it.
Reject alt? What does that
Yeah.
mean?
I mean, otherwise you
So
can just
all that
structure.
says reject
Otherwise
the
you can just
affirmative.
structure.
Hang
it
on,
down.
and all that says reject the affirmative is meeting,
Yes.
right? Okay, cool.
But okay.
Okay. Now let's go to the observation one.
Okay.
So what would, if I the only thing that triggers this is skep, right?
It's also counterplans.
Counterplans, right?
Yes.
Good. So if I defend the negative advocacy
Good.
and have a K alt that says reject the aff, it
Yes.
meets this.
Fine.
What about theory?
This is not applied to.
Does not apply to theory. Are there any theory spikes that weren't in the interview?
No.
No? Cool. Are there any K spikes that weren't in the interview? Other than, actually no, don't. That's dumb. So moral consensus checks bigotry. Yeah, I'm asking that a separate question. Don't worry about it. Moral consensus checks bigotry. That's under the haste analysis.
Yes.
What's the warrant that moral consensus is the specific thing that led to democratic reform?
Right. So the argument is analytic. My argument is that fostering democratic arenas and creating spheres for discussion allows us to, like, when someone is being bigoted, we can be like, hey, you're wrong. You shouldn't be racist. You shouldn't be sexist. Here's why. The more engagement we can have, the more we will be able to check ourselves and, like, increase self-reflection. Right. This is empirically proven across almost every democracy. Like, we always.
What if
progress
someone's
towards the best point in
excluded from the discourse? I.e., if someone's oppressed, they can't
Right,
interact
I
with
think that everyone should be included within
You
the
think
discourse.
they should, but if I prove
they are
they're
not,
not.
yeah, then that's good. If you prove that they are not included, that's an indent in my polls. But I think that, like, my polls are pretty
Alright,
inclusive.
don't worry about that. Alright, so the only thing that you show that the polls include marginalized people is the Indian poll from Counterview, right?
Also the Dahlgren evidence.
Dahl Green.
It
evidence.
includes
What was
equal
that?
distribution is the first one.
Oh,
Across
okay.
political affiliations, gender, age, race, and socioeconomic status. And then the other was the eastern populations, which are the categories.
Cool. Where would this be implemented? Where do all the polls speak to?
So each poll is, like, the polls are all different regions. But
Then
if you
how
want
can
to
you have
ask for one specifically, I'm not defending implementation specifically in one country. If you want like a link to a dissent, I can defend implementation wherever.
Can you defend in the U.S.?
Only the U.S.?
Not only, just in the U.S.
Yeah.
Alright, start the pro. Where do you show under the Dow green that includes gender, race, and all that?
Right.
Yeah, awesome. So you're saying that. I want to know where in the
Do you want to see
methodology.
them before?
Yeah. Also, can you go through, you only read 2 reasons why that gets RBI, right?
Yes.
What were it was time skew and what?
Let me check. Time skew and then checks frivolous theory.
Why is frivolous theory bad?
Because substance-based only form of education needs to be also the specifics of the topic. And frivolous theory checks or prevents from being able to get a topic. And comes before theory education is read theory on any topic, whereas specific topic education changes every 2 months.
Do you have any presumption triggers?
I'm on trigger presumption.
Under the messenger analysis, you said this presupposes absolvency. Is this an independent reason of doubt?
No.
So what does that analysis do for you?
It's just to prove that I solved. Like I solved for like it will work and it will be good in implementation because people are still in agreement with it. People are still popularly like supporting it after it has been implemented. Means that's probably a good thing. It's not offense back to my standard, just potential criticism.
And the criminal stuff does not function back to the state.
No. Well, it does in that excluded populations would likely be in agreement with the right to be forgotten because it would help them, right? Because currently they're being excluded from being able to voice their opinions. I allow for them to be included by enacting the plan, or not the plan, the affirmative.
What's the link why it causes nuclear war or extinction? And is the diamond analysis the only extinction card?
Yeah.
Alright.
So you want me to explain?
Yeah.
So the argument is that the reason why things like weapons of mass destruction, like genocide occurs is that like totalitarian governments do things that are inconsistent with popular consensus, but when they are checked back by the wills of their people, they're less likely to engage in bad policies, right? Because people are probably against genocide, right? They're held accountable by their like constituents. They're less likely to engage in morally repugnant practices.
Under Jamal, you said poverty leads us to killing each other. Where do you show that you stop
It doesn't
poverty?
say that.
That was
It
the
said-
tagline.
No, it says that poverty is like structural violence. It doesn't say it causes us to kill each other. But regardless,
The
to answer
Jamal
the
evidence
question,
of the ex-offenders?
yes, it does not say anything about killing each other. It says that domestic violence occurs as a result of poverty. That's a different argument.
Alright, where do you show
But
you stop
yeah,
poverty?
so that's Bazzelko talks about how
Bazzelko?
Bazzelko evidence
Oh, the first card? Alright, what did that say?
talks about how RTBF helps nonviolent ex-offenders escape struggles of poverty by increasing their ability to obtain employment. Right now, a structural barrier that prevents people from getting their jobs is the fact that, like, even though they're technically expunged of their records, people that like interview them can see their records on the internet, right? So then they don't get.
Are you
taken
gonna
off.
read like Washroom and the way they are?
No.
Okay, cool. 30 seconds. The order is gonna go. Oh, here, let me put everything on the dock for you to flash out.
No. Oh, sorry. How much time do you have, brother?
the problems presented, shape real-world policy actions, take in order to combat these problems, overcome dominant narratives, even become accepted as common knowledge, ostrich. A narrative story that people create to make sense, fertilize environments, narratives include separate frame, problems, connected with happy, constructive frame, shape, or view what counts as a problem, thus frames the narrative justify specific policies and policy actions. These actions reinforce dominant narratives, problems they're predicated over time, narratives, and practice that they authorize coming to paint as the only conceivable ones. The role of the ballot is to direct failures to reposition whose narrative perpetuates oppressive mindset because these narratives affect the way we view problems, therefore have effects in the real world. This is going to be incredibly important in the context of the political establishment. We need to be consistent with the dominant will, but I'm saying the narrative of oppression practice is always going to re-entrench the dominant will is good, i.e. if people are being oppressed in the status quo, that means oppression is good in the status quo because that shapes our mindset. So his polls are always going to be inherently flawed, even if they factor in racially marginalized groups. They're still from the status of racially marginalized, i.e. that's still their mindset. And this is society constrained. Your role of judge, adjudicator, because we're only based for 4 years. The purpose of debate education should train you to challenge oppressive structures, not perpetuate them. However, a focus on micro-level processes only through will have to be discussed the concept of institutional oppression without and understanding of institutional aspects. Students decontextualize social interaction. They equate prejudice with oppression. They argue that members of the prejudiced group are also oppressed. This position is untenable if we want concept remain useful for analysis of class, race, and gender relations. Exposure to the concept of oppression helps students gain a greater understanding and appreciation of those who differ from themselves. Such exposure also leads students to raise questions about, of course, apply their knowledge in everyday interactions with members of group. Even if we waste the entirety of the AC contention, it doesn't matter because I'm saying on pre-fiat obligation, you have to reject oppressive practices. Now, harms. First, international laws rooted in colonialist principles that justified European domination of non-Western states by refusing to. Wait, oh, I read the wrong poll. I read the wrong tag. See, that's not the right tag. Hang on, I'm just gonna pull it up now. It's the same old about. So, first, the majority will has traditionally been used as a tool of furthering political oppression, denying civil rights to minority groups. Gamble. The majority is used direct legislative power to deprive minorities of civil rights in housing and public accommodations for racial minorities, school desegregation, gay rights, English language laws, and AIDS policy. The majority has been extraordinarily successful using ballot blocks to repeal existing legislative protection, pass laws that block elected representatives to create new laws. Second, civil rights polls drive a wedge between all groups in society, outweighs other oppression stories because denial of civil rights means total exclusion from political communities means there's no chance of solving the oppression. This directly gamble groups that are included in participation in social, economic, political forms of the nation fight for civil rights. Their confrontation with those who've already secured their place threaten to rend the very fabric of the communities in which we live. Not only to those do they lose the polls, but the very fact of putting civil rights as to a popular vote increases the division that separates us as people. Instead of fortifying our nation, direct legislative only weakens us. This directly refutes his claim that no civil rights listening to polls is solved for civil rights abuse, because I'm saying that inherently subjugates that inherently drives a wedge between individuals, because you're saying here this is something we're trying to implement in order to help black people, i.e. Something to implement to help oppressed groups, i.e. This means that like the oppressor has to help the oppressed, i.e. we're driving a wedge further in between them. And second, even if he says that we're solving for civil rights abuse by allowing racially marginalized groups to participate in polls, this doesn't solve it all, because polls are still going to, i.e. Even if I factor in 2% of black opinion in polls, that's not going to factor, if 98% of white opinion, even factoring them into polls means you're still excluding them, because the 98%, the dominant white opinion, is still going to subjugate them. That's under the Gamble analysis. Third, the oppression is empirically proven. Direct democracy has been shown to oppress minorities. Gamble 2, an oath provides discouraging evidence that political minorities do not fare well at polls. Of the 74 civil rights initiatives, this instance voted on 78%, resulting in an outcome that constituted a defeat of minority interests, including the repeal of existing civil rights laws and the enactment of laws that prohibited legislative bodies from passing new civil rights laws and defeating measures that sought to extend civil rights protections. 92% of activists sought to restrict the rights of minorities, and prefer my evidence because of both empirical and analytical evidence as to why polls justify oppression. Even if he factors in minority will in polls, that doesn't solve jack, because minority is still going to be the minority, i.e. the white majority is still going to oppress them. Now, yeah, so now off. First off the, like the, Bernie sets up that defense skepticism. I'm saying we reject the advocacy of polls, not that we adopt a different alt, so I'm meeting all the Bernie's except for today. Now off moral consensus, check their truth. One, this begs the question, why consensus actually change bigotry? He's just making that logical link, but there's no correlation causation, i.e. just because we factored in polls and some oppression has been solved, it's never going to have 100% solvency, because even if it is factoring minority will, it's just, there could be a plurality of other factors that actually lead to the solvency of oppression, not necessarily just because we're factoring polls, i.e. it's not a correlation without causation. Second, people are still removed from the public sphere under these because there's still a white majority. Also, this applies to the Dow Green and the Jobby evidence, because I'm specifically showing you that even if you factor in the will, the counter-view evidence, because I'm showing that even if you factor in the will of minorities, it's still overpowered by the will of majority. And second, he never showed me specifically, when I asked him in cross-text to show me this specifically in the article where he factors in gender, age, and race. He never actually showed me that. He showed me the article, but he never showed me specifically in the methodology where that happened. Third, even if he's factoring race, gender, that's only that specific poll, i.e. it's not to all the polls he's speaking to, and he's not just speaking to one country. So even if he factored in race in this poll, all of his other polls don't speak to that. So at best, it's mitigatory defense on the harm, and under the counterview poll, this is just Indian opinion, whereas I'm showing the empirical examples of that, there's been black subjugation. Now, off. Find it? Alright. Eighth, interpretation barriers may not read descriptive standards, clarify the app may not read polls. These violations just by standards through polls. Zero standards. One is valid solvability. There's no way to weigh between competing polls for different countries. Polls don't reflect true opinion. Only a portion of the population. People don't give their actual beliefs and data manipulate. Casita. Unless predictions count the entire country population, the same margin of error, margin without one poll, or what's this to being able to gauge public opinion. All numbers can be manipulated. All question data can be legal and or esteemed. Many people who have opinion never give it. If people ask for it, it's impossible to truly gauge public opinion where they capture all the public information. Even if he comes up with reasons why they can weigh polls in one AR, the Casita argument preemptive because one poll don't reflect true opinion mean even if you incorporate more people's opinion and have better methodology, I can't respond to it. Prefer Casita over there because he's a cited author and academic during their high school student. I'm skipping McGinnis. So even if we both read different polls, there's no ability to resolve because A, the question of are leading to create false comparisons. B, these two cards are independent reason why polls, the one card, independent reason why polls are bad because you say normally we should learn polls education, but that education is completely bankrupt. Resolvability is side constraint on all other standards because a precondition to debate is the judge can evaluate who did the better dating. This is key debate because it literally takes debate out of the debater's hands. Key to education because we don't want to debate when we debate really bad arguments. Now, choose topical debate. Polls are topical debate because there's no depth of argumentation versus depth polls. Debate is literally nothing. We just compare numbers with nothing about a topic. Key to fairness in education because we need topical debate coming around in order for us to link it out. Dear voters, vote on fairness because debate is bad activity. It needs to check. Vote on fairness because debate is bad activity. Vote on education because it's the primary goal. Fund activity. Drop debate to A. Deter their B. Send on that uneducational unfair activity shouldn't win. C. Any other question since this gets them to try and figure out the value of convening interpret because feasibility is no bright line and bench judge intervention. Now, off the bottom of the interview real quick. I'll grant him the RBI, just don't deny me the RBI, that's understandable. Reciprocity outweighs his argument because he's saying there's a time skew, but this creates a time skew against the negative because I literally lose access to the entire layer of the debate, i.e. it doesn't just find denying me an RBI. That's so very much.
So if I win defense on theory, then education to win.
No.
If I win a competing interpretation.
If you win a competing interpretation, then it just comes down to the data. Does the theory function before the day?
Okay, let's go through the standards of the teaching.
Alright, so I only read the Casita analysis here. Do you want me just to read it real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotcha. So I read not this. Okay, so yeah, I read that. The Casita analysis says specifically that we can never truly weigh between polls because the data is manipulated. Also,
Wait, why is the data manipulated?
That's Casita, right?
No, I didn't get that line.
Alright, the margin of error is the margin of data. One poll or one statistic being able to
Yeah, sure, a margin of error. Like
all numbers can be manipulated. All questions of data can be leading or
Yeah, sure.
deceiving.
Well, at least why are my polls specifically manipulated?
I'm saying all polls are, right?
What is manipulated?
What do you mean, what is
What is
manipulated?
manipulated? I'm
Alright.
asking you what manipulated.
I'm saying all numbers can be manipulated in the idea that I
That's
can
great.
change the numbers and then post them on academic.
Okay, so you're saying every poll that exists changes the actual number?
No, it's just that since there's a risk of that happening, it's impossible for us to adequately
So
weigh between the
there's a
two, right?
chance that polls are bad, so we should never use
That's how
polls.
competing interpretations work. I'm setting up that your practice isn't a good norm because you're setting up a norm that could allow for bad education, i.e. it's harmful.
Okay, so you're
Even
saying
if in
that
this
there-
specific instance, you can look. Even if in this specific instance, your polls are the most nifty-nandy thing in the world.
Right,
That doesn't
so-
matter
okay,
because
so-
you're
so
going
you're-
to set
so
a norm
let-
that polls are
Hey,
good.
tell me if my characterization of your argument is correct. It is potential that someone could interfere with a poll and delete the numbers and replace them, and therefore we should never poll anyone.
It's not that we shouldn't poll anyone. It's that
Or we should
shouldn't
never
be a
use
norm.
polls.
It's that it shouldn't be a norm in the debate to read them because it's bad education for fairness, right?
So, right, do you agree that maybe like disads probably have analysis that is fake, or someone
What do you
just
mean
makes that?
disads have analysis?
Right,
like
like
that?
internal link
I think
analysis.
debaters read crappy arguments all the time, like, I don't know, polls into extinction, but I'm just saying that specifically, I'm showing you that polls can be a bad form of debate. It's
what's
not
the second
educational, so you
argument?
shouldn't read them, right? Oh, so the second argument is topical debate. Polls are horrible for topical debate because then we're just comparing numbers.
So what if I win that what people believe is the most important thing on the topic?
What do you mean is the most important thing?
As in the best form of education regarding the topic is looking at what people think about the topic.
If you prove that polls are the best topical education, good luck on that one. Yeah,
Yes.
that's a turn.
Okay,
That's
so then what is the reason
definition.
that they aren't important? It's just
Okay.
because we can't compare numbers.
Not necessarily that we can't compare them, because that would be infringement on the first thing.
So I'm gonna quote literally the only war that's in this.
The depths of polls debate means literally nothing. We just compare numbers, which tells us nothing about the topic. That's verbatim.
We're gonna tell us what
It doesn't tell us anything
What
about
is
the
what is
content.
offense
It's
on the
just
NC?
numbers,
What is
right?
the offense on the NC?
Sorry, there's one that can mention. So what do you mean offense in the NC?
Like,
I
you're
read
saying
K.
narratives are good. Do you read any narratives?
No, you're conflating what a narrative is, right? That's like saying fairness is only in making sense of the context of theory. So a narrative, i.e. the way we look at real world policies, is what shapes our frames, our mindset.
So why is the oppressor always inevitable in terms, like the oppressor always being in control inevitable in terms of force?
Say that again?
Why is the oppressor? It's fine. And the only voter is education, right?
No.
Which is only fairness.
That's under topical debate.
Oh, is
That's, yeah. No, that was also read under resolvability. Yeah, so both of them are under fairness.
What comes first, two, three? Our theory or connect?
I didn't speak to that.
I'm reading one new card, that's it. Do you want me to flash it, or?
Where are you reading it?
I'm reading one new card, it's on theory.
Are you reading it first?
Yeah.
Uh,
I can like tap you when I'm reading it.
alright, yeah, I'll accept that. I like that idea.
Alright, starting AC, bottom, then moving to the NC, then theory.
Wait,
As as in narratives?
Yeah. So, AC narratives theory.
AC narratives.
Extend the applicant's RBI theory as far as theory is clear, when there's money uses, he can say that I can RBI theory is that if I'm going to community interpretation to his, if I'm going to community interpretation to his interpretation, that's going to be sufficient to vote affirmative. But let's extend the app. So extend the value grammatic analysis of host objective truth candidates objective truth are based on subject matter, subject understanding to shape and them. It's game over at this point because you can extend this cross-apply this analysis to the top of the NC as far as he's looking for static and subject truth as far as we always have to look to narrative that's going to be problematic because it appeals to objective truth which can't exist. Also extend host. He says it controls morality. The view cannot be perceived independent of the thought, so it says it's the only medium between intersubjectively construct reality. It's the only way to validate truth. Moreover, he implicitly concedes the authority of consensus by participating in argumentation. We would not need justification for arguments absent the external validation through consensus. Additionally, extend the analysis of the underneath case, which indicates that morality through consensus through deliberation checks back bigotry because individuals are held accountable by others. Over time, democratic arenas will progress towards the best forms of morality by fostering discussion and reflection. His response to this is that there's no correlation / causation, but it probably just makes sense. Democratic arenas drop a realization that things are bad. It's empirically proven. We've gone from thinking that slavery was okay through protesting Ferguson and Garner decisions. This is people white people have gone from thinking slavery was terrible to thinking that racism is really really bad, right? The fact that we're allowing for increased engagement and discussion allows for us to check back our bigotry and our privilege and realize that we are not always the best thing. We have to look to other people. We have to allow for omnipresent perspective understandings of the world. Additionally, he says that I don't show any race gender, but in one of the polls that I gave him the poll, he just didn't look at it. You can look the poll off the ground. Also, he says that I don't prove how I help the black body, but I would say that as far as he's conceding the ex-convict arguments at the bottom of the AC is probably going to help the black body as far as they are disproportionately affected by prison sentences. At the very least, I'm helping the rest of the world. So extend the consistency with popular consensus. Extend the Dalby which indicates that majority of the population is favored, RTBF 50% for and 22% against. Also extend that this leads to extinction or inconsistency with popular consensus leads to extinction because governments are unable to unilaterally create WMDs and begin wars because they no longer have to answer the citizens. This precludes all the arguments coming off the narratives. It's impossible to engage in understand narratives if we're all dead. Just go to the narrative. So individual narratives are bad. Determination of morality based on individual accounts is problematic because we potentially look to the narrative of the oppressor. Also, I solve that because I allow for democratic proceduralism. That's the way I think into the role of the judge being to challenge oppression because democratic proceduralism is the best way to understand what oppression is. As far as we can only understand oppression from the viewpoint of those who are oppressed, i.e. the people subjectively determine what is oppressive to them means that we have to actually look to their voices to be heard through polls in order to determine what oppression is in the first place. Also, I would say that being inconsistent with the majority will is probably inherently oppressive because if repressing the will of the entirety of the population, effectively the same thing as totalitarianism. Additionally, all the gamble evidence, this evidence is in reference to minorities being excluded from polls, but I don't link into that. My poll sample, everyone also second the Iowa way in the long run. Yes, oppression exists, but democracy is how we stop it in the long run. The alternative solves nothing. Also, he says that anyway, 8% of the white opinion subjugates 2% of the black opinion, but I think that the alternative, the minority of the majority, is the problem with all of history. 5% of the elite oppressing 95% of the middle class population also assumes that white people are bad or incapable of change, but appears to not lead to democracy and discussion allows for the privilege to recognize the privilege. Additionally, it's for the theory. So A is the counter-interpretation of the affirmative may-read framework and often is based in polls if they have a card contextualizing point of clash in the topic literature. B is the I me. I have a card that contextualizes that. I'm not going to read it because it's extended as offense against my framing, but it's here. You can look at it if you want to. You can look at it after. C is the standards. Democratic education. Education about democratic proceduralism is uniquely important because it teaches how to create real-world change. Most of us will not be policymakers, but all of us will design policies. Venice 13. Young people do not act as passive recipients of knowledge, but rather as active co-creators of their own learning. The non-products of the educational system, but rather value participants in a value learning community. Democratic education helps young people learn about themselves, engage with the world around them, and become positive, contributing members of society. This comes before questions of fairness, fostering democratic spheres is the best way to determine what fairness means in the first place. Also, he says that true polls don't reflect the true opinion, but we can use statistical regressions to extrapolate data that's good. Good polls are generally representative. Also, just because polls could be potentially flawed, that's not a reason why we shouldn't use them at all. He needs to have specific index of how my polls are flawed. Also, the poll debate is resolvable. You can weigh methodology, sample size, regression, etc. Also, topic of the debate, polls are good. It's the best form of education. It's how we know about the topic. Knowing what people believe is critical to understanding oppression because they define what oppression is in the first place. Also, what everyone wants is probably generally a good thing. If everyone wants RTDF, we should probably give it to them. Not doing so is inherently oppressive.
What was the right argument you made over resolvability? Or what were the arguments you made over resolvability?
So the first is that I responded to the card, so I said that it's not irresolvable because the way methodology, sample size, regression, other parts of polls, like who is represented, etc. We can use statistical regressions to establish.
Do you do any way what democratic education is for?
Yeah, that's the argument. It's the way it teaches us how we can create real world change because we will not become policymakers, but all of us will decide on policy, right? So learning about democratic education helps us learn about our position within the way that we can affect change in the real world, right? We can vote on policies, learn more about things, recognize our privilege, etc. Right? And only would be made by fostering discussion.
Alright, the order is going to go K, A, theory. Oh, I'm going to be reading new stuff for the K if you want to read a flash too.
Have to show him.
Yeah. Everyone ready? Alright, so this round's going to be incredibly easy insofar as he's not doing enough work on the K debate and he's not doing Lang why theory comes before the K. So if I do Lang but the K comes prior to theory, i.e. it's your role about to vote on this top advocacy, it's your role about to vote on this advocacy first, you vote on the K and you can clearly vote there because I'm going to be winning that. So extend the Austrian analysis the way a narrative and link problems present sick real world policy actions taken in order to combat these problems over time dominant narratives even become accepted as knowledge to extend the analytic under Austrian side that this means that even if he factors in the polls of individuals, it's not going to solve. It doesn't de-link him from the argument because even if he's factoring in those individual polls, they're still going to be starting from an oppressive mindset, i.e. you can never, the polls are always going to still be grounded in oppression, i.e. even if he's saying that society has moved away from oppression, the narratives are still grounded in the narratives are still grounded in this common knowledge, the dominant narrative that was there prior. So, even if we're starting to move towards these policies, he can never solve oppression. So, this is drop away. Now, extend the role of judge rejectors who read persistence, whose narrative perpetuates oppressive mindsets, and extend this society can train the role of the judge as a adjudicator because we're only paid for 4 years, purpose of education to train youth to challenge press practices, not to perpetuate them. Really quick off the AC, he said that he said the first argument the claims don't exist outside of consensus means that there's no objective truth outside of legal consensus. This would apply to narrative because it's not true, but I'm saying one, oppression is an objectively bad thing, so it is a moral truth. We know oppression is freaking bad, right? Second, even if it's not necessarily an objective moral truth, Boehmer is saying that it's not necessarily your advocacy to vote on what's the truest argument, it's your advocacy to vote on who's stopping oppression, i.e. Boehmer analysis is setting up you need to stop oppression. So even if his framework comes prior, that doesn't matter because I'm saying that your role to judge is to vote on this issue. So even if it's not a true issue, even if we can't know moral truth, like we can't know oppression is truly bad, you still vote on this issue. This was the first argument in the framework. Also, third, this conflates post and pre-fiat. Even if we can't know truth in the post-fiat world and the pre-fiat world, we're saying the role of the judge is to vote on this issue. So we already presuppose that's a bad issue. So conflate post and pre-fiat. Now, down to contention level. Extend the gamble analysis, the majority will is untrue, been traditionally used as a tool for furthering political oppression, denial of civil rights, minority groups. Extend the second analysis, which is cold conceit that civil rights polls drive a wedge between all groups in society, outweighs other oppression stories because denial of civil rights means total exclusion from political communities, which means there's no chance of solvency for oppression. And off this, the only arguments he made on the case was no, like my polls include all individuals, but I'm saying even if your polls include all individuals, you're still driving a wedge between members of society. So even if you're inclusive of all polls, you're driving that wedge, baby. It's bad. Now, extend the third gamble analysis that this oppression is empirically proven. Direct democracy has been shown to oppress minorities. Then extend the analytic under gamble 2, the analytic under the last gamble analysis that you prefer my evidence because it provides both empirical and analytical evidence. That's why polls justify oppression. This directly takes out his argument that he extends at the AC that it's empirically proven to have some solvency because I'm giving you an empirical and analytic that he read that moral consensus checks bigotry. I'm giving you empirical and analytical evidence that it doesn't. So, goes away, right? This is the in the framework. Also, extend the second analysis argument that there could be a plurality of other factors that are checking our bigotry, not just moral consensus, i.e. just because we live in a democratic society with moral consensus, that democratic society is shifting away from an oppressive rule doesn't mean you solve for it. Now, go to his Dahlgren evidence. This is so easy to vote on. Vote here. Even if he's factoring in the will of minorities, it's still going to be overpowered by the white majority, i.e. even if I'm 2% and I'm the minority and my voice is expressed, if 98% the majority go against my opinion, my voice is not truly heard. I'm still allowed to be oppressed in society, meaning the legal consensus doesn't provide any solvency. And second, under the Dahlgren analysis, this is only one poll that he's advocating where it factors in race. The other ones don't. So this is not sufficient to totally beat back the K. Now, under the extinction argument he extends. So don't buy this argument, obviously. He's saying we can't have these narratives if we're all dead, but one's conflict post and pre-fiat. He's saying in the post-fiat world, if we don't listen to legal consensus, this means we can't have narrative ideas. I'm saying that in a pre-fiat world, i.e. this round, we can talk about these issues, and you're talking about oppression is bad, so you need to be voted down. Saying that like we can't talk about it if there's extinction is empirically denied, because I'm talking about it right now. Also, under the ex-offenders thing, he said like black people are disproportionately in prison. One, this is blatantly racist. Two, you shouldn't vote on that because it didn't do anything with the K. 3, it didn't interact with the K at all. I'm saying polls are bad. You need to stop that oppressive mindset. He doesn't have any solvency for black people being marginalized in prison groups, even if they are. So, now let's go to Lang real quick while I think comes first. whether it's on theory or the bottom of the K, whichever one. So first, role of valid comes before theory because one, valid has to be the better debating, but that begs further justification of what makes good debating. My role of valid provides the only explanation, so it doesn't make sense to say the judge can evaluate who did better debating if the theory shall prevent the possibility of achieving that operates on a higher level than my role of valid. Second, there are an infinite number of ways to construct the debate for it to be fair, anything from a coin flip to a perfectly fair debate round, but how to choose which structures to use begs the question of some external goal we wish to achieve, which my role of valid provides. He's saying we need to vote on fairness to educational I'm saying we need to vote on fairness to educational practices under the theory shell, but under this, I'm saying that begs an external goal debate, and I'm saying the external goal debate is to challenge oppressive practices, so you vote on K first. And third, theory assumes a certain conception of fairness that is largely unjustified, i.e. that structural fairness comes before discussion of exclusion. My role of valid contextualizes what fairness means in terms of oppression and their unfair treatment. So, 3 reasons why K comes before theory. You can vote on K easily because he's definitely linking any functions before the AC offense. Role of valid comes prior, so you can easily vote there. But really quick, off the theory shell. Extending interpretation may not be descriptive standards clarified the app may not be pulled extend valid resolvability. There's no way to read through a way between competing polls to extend that this comes prior to all other forms of weighing because we can't because resolvability is signed to train all other standards because signed to train all other standards because the precondition debate is that the judge can evaluate who did the better debating, so resolvability comes first. He just gives mandatory reasons why they're still resolvable, but I'm saying it's irresolvable because you don't actually factor in the wills of the people. Even if his methodology doesn't do this specifically, the normative sense is bad. So primary exam incredibly easy. Vote on K, functions before the offense he extends. K comes before theory also.
I have 15 seconds. Hey, remember when I said if I win a competing interpretation on theory, I win, and you said yes?
No, right? I said if you win a counter interpretation on theory, you
I
win
said
an
if I win on theory, I win round, and you said
No,
yes.
that's not how debate works,
Alright,
dude.
cool. Also, why do you get to read new K comes with me and the 2 and R?
Because
What am I
no one
supposed to
did
do now?
no.
It's a
You
2 AR. How
do
do they
weighing.
evaluate new? Okay, so I can just come up with new main arguments?
Yeah, do
So
weighing.
it's
Right?
so it's
Neither of
2 AR
us
weighing.
neither of us did weighing. I did weighing in the 2A. You can do weighing in the 2A.
Sweet. Okay, so let's go to theory. I might go to the app. We'll see.
I'm sorry, you said you're doing theory, going to theory?
Alright, is everyone ready? We both agreed to an RBI. We said I would get an RBI on theory. So we said the counter interpretation, the affirmative vaguely framework, and office-based polls. If I have a card contextualizing point of class and topic literature resolves all the fairness claims also because it means that he can he always has polls evidence that he can read and compare against my polls evidence. Also because the standard of the best evidence 13, which indicates that democratic education is the best form of education because it teaches us how to create real-world policies. Most of us will not be making policy makers, but all of us will decide on policy. So you can extend the standards of fairness education and draw and if it's far as winning a competing interpretation that's better than the original interpretation, that's sufficient to vote for me on theory. So obviously he doesn't accept the only argument that he responds to that we can't weigh on polls, but he drops the argument that the round is resolvable with polls. You can weigh methodology, sample size, regression. You can weigh which polls are more accurate. It's not that hard. Group all of his reasons why K comes before theory. No, that's my response. It's 2 AR. He dropped it. You can't do anything. Don't let him get away with new 2 and R weighing arguments. It's impossible for me. There's no way to resolve those. He read theory initially. He read it in the first place. He should have done some sort of implicit weighing for to begin with in 1 AR. The fact that he didn't do that, don't let him get away with you weighing the 2 and R. But even if you do, theory comes before the K. 1. In order to determine whether or not the arguments for the future actually evaluate the debate, then the future structures use the round to point which I can't sufficiently answer the previous possible to do that. He does that by reading the theory shell makes it impossible for me to gauge and spread over all of the different layers of the debate. Still, when on the critique, also the pre-found nature of the critique attempts to simulate real world change. However, the advocacy skills that we generate from education and create to ever being able to do that. This means that theory is prerequisite in order to return the proceedings as far as he harms education is destroying the base skills necessary to simulate the change he wants. We need to drop him on his own pre-found application. So even if we are trying to move away from the goals that I'm going for, trying to stimulate or increase the amount of narratives that we look to, the way we do that is through education. He's conceding that democratic education is the best form of education because it's the way that we relate to the world and the way we can create or formulate policy options. So at the very least, it's a very easy way to win the round. He definitely said that I win if I win on theory. Worst case, the K is not before theory. That's New York, don't vote on those. So he sends almost nothing out of the original interpretation. Democratic education is the best education was conceded, you just vote on theory. But even though that's not true, it's still the act. So extend the analysis above hold objective truth can't exist presenting claims objective truth based on the subject in mind life or subject understandings and shaping the truth and cross application to the top of the narrative. He says that oppression is objectively bad, but I'm saying it's not objectively bad, it's bad under intersubjective construction of reality. I'm not denying that oppression is a bad thing. I agree it's a bad thing, but I am saying that objective truth can't exist. It's bad because we agree that it is a bad thing. Also, it's a new argument in the last speech. Don't let him go for that. It also takes away the entirety of the narrative because the narrative appeals back to an objective static conception truth that we always have to look at perspectives. Also, he said that in conflating pre and post, there's no distinction between when it comes to the way that we determine truth. No objective truth can apply on a post-and pre-fiat level. Also, he said that polls justify oppression, but turn polls not negate polls to justify oppression because it means that you're equivalent to the 1% over the 99% means that you're being inherently oppressive. Also, he says that Dahlgren evidence means that white people always oppress black people, but assumes that white people are always bad. But I would say that democratic procedures allows for people to recognize the privilege and become like check their racism. Also, he says the fact that they said black people are disproportionately racist is in prison is racist, but seriously, black people are disproportionately affected by the criminal justice system. It's racist, not me. But even if the doctor is conceding that engaging in discourse in the first place, like allowing for democratic procedures is how we check back bigotry, because it checks our own individual, like we realize and recognize the privilege. We can not be that bigotry.
It's racist, not me.